All right then, good afternoon, everyone. Today is October 16th, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority being conducted in Albany and also remotely. We have in the Albany office, Chairman Bradley. We have participating by video, Commissioner Fan. We also have on the phone, Commissioner Ford. Commissioner Ford, can you just give us a little shout out there?
I'm here. Thank you.
All right. We also have in attendance General Counsel Meyerhoff by video, Deputy Commissioner Roberts by telephone,
I'm here. Thanks, Tom.
and myself, Secretary Downey in the Albany office. We have 4 items on today's calendar, and we'll start. The first item is 1451Q. This is a report of litigation regarding Third Avenue Food Corp.
Thank you, Tom. This is a case which is a single charge. A single charge was sustained by the board. In connection with the settlement of pending litigation, counsel's office is requesting that the board dismiss this charge.
And with that, I'll turn to Commissioner Fan.
I read the materials. I'm okay with dismissing the charge, so I vote to dismiss.
Okay. Commissioner Ford
I approve dismissal as well.
and Chairman Bradley.
I'll dismiss the charge as well.
The next item is 1451R. It's Pro 109 Tavern LLC. This is a conditional no contest offer of $15,000 for a licensee that was summarily suspended on September 24th due to a couple of errors. It was meant to be on the Wednesday calendar and it was not. So we've added it to this calendar for your consideration.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. For the record, this is a summary suspension from September 24th. The location was visited earlier in the evening and appeared to be okay. It's a Nassau County instance. When investigators returned, there were 35 people in front drinking with no masks, no social distancing. There's a picture that shows a congregating crowd. The owner admitted to the investigator he was unable to control the crowd. It doesn't look like there was any effort to have people seated or having food. There was inside service as well to standing people. The offer is $15,000 to settle the matter.
All right, with that, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions? I'm sorry, what's your vote, please?
So this location is licensed as what? It's a tavern bar?
You know what? I'm not sure. It's
If you have a serial, Gary, I can check it.
132-486-4.
It's licensed as a bar tavern with recorded and live music.
Okay, and I don't know. I'm concerned that they're wasting their money. This place had a temp and got their license in August of August of this year. And the CNC came in with no explanation, no nothing. So I don't know. I mean, unless they've talked to a prosecutor, and we are confident that they're going to be in compliance.
I don't know. I don't have any basis to believe we're confident that the answer is we don't know either way. We do not have a letter of mitigation from them. And I can't give you any more confidence than the fact that they're willing to pay $15,000 to move forward, which would serve as a deterrent of some kind, but perhaps not as clear that they understand what they're doing as might have been had they sent in a letter explaining themselves.
But I will note that they are represented by legal counsel.
Right.
But it appears a lawyer did sign the offer, and if that lawyer failed to advise them properly, then I would think that, as Gary said, I think they have certainly gotten a deterrent with the 15,000, given that they're a brand new business.
All right. Then I'll accept.
Commissioner Ford,
They were licensed August of 2020. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, they had temps before, but they got their permanent license just very recently.
I mean, it's clear one, they get caught again, their investment is out the window. So
Yeah, I tend to think a hefty fine like this should be a wake-up call. I will vote to accept the offer.
Chairman Bradley.
I'll accept.
All right, now we have two requests from council's office for summary orders of suspension. First item is 1451S. It's King's OP 1315516, Wise Bar and Grill LLC.
Yes, Mike, this is yours, right?
Yes, that's correct, Gary.
All right, let me just state for the record before you begin, because the board has not dealt with this situation yet. As has been widely reported in the press, the COVID-19 testing numbers have spiked in certain areas of New York State in recent weeks, including in areas that, areas were reopened because they met certain metrics, including percentages of positive testing, and now some of these areas have gone in the other direction. The areas that have been problematic are in Brooklyn, Queens, Rockland, and Orange counties, with positive testing rates of between 5 and 7%. The state, in a new executive order 202.62, has designated 3 color zones based on the severity of these new conditions, these spiking conditions: red, orange, and yellow. And depending on which zone businesses are in, the industries have been restricted or closed, and that includes restaurants and taverns. As of now, those in red zones have been rolled back to takeout service only, no inside or outside service. Those in orange are permitted to serve outside, but only with 4 persons per table, which is a further Department of Health restriction above where outside service was and is. Yellow zone is indoor and outdoor service is still permitted, but again, 4 persons per table. Mike is going to present the case which is in the orange zone. That there are other businesses in these zones that have been even further restricted than restaurants. The orange zone, for example, there's several types of businesses that are closed completely. New York City schools are closed. These restrictions have been added to stop what could be a second wave in some of these areas. That they're very serious, and the board should consider that in connection with this case. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board. Office of Counsel submits the subject licensee, Wise Bar, which is located at 35 Neptune Avenue in Brooklyn, to members of the authority to consider an emergency order of suspension of their retail on-premise license pursuant to Section 401, subsection 3 of the State Administrative Procedure Act. Before I begin, I'd just like to let the board know that I had a conversation with SLA investigator Bart Jaworski, and in connection with the inspection prior to going out, they simply went to a website, which took all of 15 seconds, which is nycgov.maps.arcgis.com. You simply put the address into that site, and it will tell you what zone you're in. And when you go and put in this address, which is 35 Neptune Avenue, it'll tell you that it's the orange zone, and it'll describe that restaurants, bars, cafes, and other food service establishments can provide outdoor dining and takeout delivery service only. There's a 4-person maximum per table, and it specifies that no indoor dining is allowed. And as I said earlier, it takes all but 15 seconds to check that. Nevertheless, last night on October 15th at approximately 8:53 p.m., the task force conducted inspection at the licensed premises. At that time, they observed 3 individuals standing without masks in front of the premises in violation of Executive Order 202.38. There was 1 employee in the kitchen with no mask in violation of Executive Order 202.16. And there was at least 24 individuals eating and drinking inside. And as we said earlier, this establishment is located in an orange zone, and therefore indoor dining is not permitted and is in violation of executive orders. The premises was issued the license on May 1st. There is only 1 open prior case, which occurred on October 27th to 19th, which involved an intoxicated person. The type of conduct that we just spoke about last night, the indoor dining, the standing, the congregating, not wearing masks, is exactly the conduct the EOs and the SLA, Department of Health guidelines, were designed to prevent. So based upon the investigation report, my conversations with Investigator Bart Jaworski, this establishment poses a risk to the public health and safety, and the members could have no confidence that this conduct will not continue. And therefore, the council's office respectfully requests that the members summarily suspend this license. Thank you.
Yeah, just one thing to add, Mike. Apparently from the report, it looks like the owner, when questioned as to why he was operating this way, mentioned that someone from some law enforcement had told him that he was really in the yellow zone. As Mike pointed out, it's pretty easy to figure out what zone you're in. I don't know whether that happened or didn't. I also understand, although I cannot tell you yet for this particular location, that many businesses in this area were notified about this directly, and we will look into whether or not such notice was actually directly provided to this licensee. But regardless, they were in a very dangerous zone and operating outside the law.
Gary, who would have notified them? Was that the New York City?
I think the state sent out notices to the Department of Health, but I'm not entirely sure the scope of that. So we'll have to look into that.
So Investigator Jaworski heard back from the licensee, and he was told that there were 2 guys with an inspection, a police officer and a sheriff. And he writes, if I'm not wrong, but unfortunately, I don't know their last names or their names at all. And that came in at 1:12 this afternoon.
All right, with that then, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a quick question. What date were the zones established? I think it was the beginning of last week. They started talking about it and then it was put in effect last Thursday. Is that accurate?
Yes, I believe it was on October 6th.
October 6th, and this happened on the 15th.
Correct.
Okay. So that's 9 days later. Okay. And he said that he thought he was in the yellow zone, but I feel like the acts would have still been in violation if he were in the yellow zone, or?
If he was in the yellow zone, indoor dining is permitted. And with a maximum of 4 people per table, which based on my conversations with the investigator, that was in fact what he observed, no more than 4 people per table.
Okay. And what about the people standing outside?
The people outside were in violation of whether it was orange or yellow, or red for that matter as well.
Or no color. You're not allowed to have people congregating in front of your place waiting to be seated.
I understand. And the pictures look like there was a crowd outside. Was there an explanation as to what the people outside were doing? Were they waiting for a table or?
There were tables outside. I know the photographs don't show that, but I spoke with the investigator and he told me that there were tables outside. And based on my conversations with him, he was under the belief that they were waiting to be seated. So that's why they were outside congregating.
Okay, Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
That last picture with the woman in the pink fuchsia jacket, I think that picture is inside. That was
Yes,
taken inside.
yes.
And what about the people that are sitting next to her, sort of in front of that decoration? Is that outside?
My understanding is that that's inside.
That's also inside. So it's 3 tables deep inside.
Yes, but the investigator doesn't recall seeing people seated at the tables that were outside.
Okay, is this less than 25%?
Yes, my understanding is the maximum occupancy is 166.
Commissioner Ford, did you have any other questions?
I just missed it when you said that when they were licensed.
May 1st, 2019.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
All right, Chairman Bradley, any questions?
Mike, did you look this up on the app?
I certainly did, Mr. Chairman. In fact,
And
yeah.
And this is clearly in the orange zone?
Yes, it is clearly. In fact, there's a second website you could go to as well, which is the COVID hotspot lookup.health.ny.gov. You put the address in there, and then the same information comes up as well. And I double checked, and it certainly is in the orange zone.
All right, thank you.
All right, then with that, I'll call for your votes. First, Commissioner Fan.
Um, Gary, I think I need a sidebar.
Okay,
All
Can
right,
I
we'll
give you a
take
call?
yes.
a brief recess. Just ask everyone to mute your microphones. All right, then we all set to proceed?
Yes.
All right, we are back on the record on item 1451S, Wise Bar and Grill Inc., LLC rather. It's a request for a summary order of suspension. Commissioner Fan? I think
Yes, I'm ready to vote. Based on the evidence presented by counsel, this location has violated the color code that has been established based on the COVID-19 wave of spread, and due to an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford?
I'll vote to summarily suspend on the same grounds based on evidence as provided by counsel.
And Chairman Bradley?
Based on the evidence presented by counsel, as well as the pictures and the records, it's clear that this licensee is squarely within the orange zone that has been designated through the governor's executive orders. And through those executive orders, it is limited to outdoor dining only, and it's clear that indoor dining was occurring throughout the restaurant while it was prohibited. And as a result, this licensee has become a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare.
All right, then the next item I have, 1451T. It's King's OP 1289295. It's 39 Fantastic Bar, Inc.
Good afternoon. This is Margarita Marcico on behalf of counsel's office, requesting that the members issue an emergency order of summary suspension as to 39 Fantastic Bar. Chairman Bradley, you may recall this licensee, counsel's office had done a long hearing involving the possession of ketamine on behalf of patrons. Judge Harvey sustained 2 counts of sale of disorder with ketamine. She also sustained focal point and failed to supervise. In her decision, she determined that there's absolutely no supervision at this premise. The chairman was a little bit concerned because it appeared that there were additional sales that had occurred. However, counsel's office had been unable to obtain the lab report, so we did prove the two counts of sale. Ultimately, in that case, the licensee submitted a conditional contest offer of $25,000 in 2019, and that's how that matter was settled. Lieutenant Meyer, who's a special operations lieutenant of this precinct, told me that about a week ago he noticed that there was a covering in the front of the premise, that the lights are off, but he saw people coming in, and he was suspicious about this. He saw car service cars being parked in front of, and he spoke to the neighborhood coordinating officers, who also had indicated that recently there'd seen some activity that looked like it was surreptitious, like as if they were trying to show the world that they were closed, but in fact there was activity going on inside. The lieutenant requested a joint inspection with Vice because this lieutenant had been involved in many of the arrests in the prior case that counsel's office had prosecuted that I mentioned previously, where they paid the $25,000 fine. So they organized a joint inspection on October 10th at about 12:11 in the morning. They went through the only door, the front door, which is kind of like a side entrance. It leads into a vestibule area. There was a person there who appeared to be engaging as a security guard, although he denied being a security guard. The Vice detectives were the first to go down the stairs. There was this vestibule area, which led into the premise, also led to a basement, which is actually, I didn't attach the diagram, but this stairwell is actually depicted in the diagram. They went down to the basement where there were the karaoke rooms. The lights were down low. Each room has its own music, but each room pretty much had loud music. Detective Spataro arrested 7 people in possession of ketamine. Some of them, I did not get to speak to Detective Spataro personally today, but according to Lieutenant, his supervisor, Conforti, he was informed that the detective observed people either dropping the ketamine on the floor or, using it. So 7 patrons were arrested. They estimated there were approximately 100 patrons in this basement. The reason why this is very concerning is, first off, they're not supposed to be using the basement. They never told us they'd be using the basement. The lieutenant, Meyer, told me he did some digging into the C of O because he was concerned about what was going on there, and he saw that the C of O's only they're only permitted to have 25 people maximum in the basement, and again, they were not lawfully, licensed to be using this basement. So they had 100 people crowded in there. Lieutenant Meyer is the one that took the photographs that are submitted to the members. He got there after, the detectives from Vice were there and made all the arrests. But you still see some of the patrons that crowded in there. The kitchen was closed. There was no cook in the kitchen, although if you look at the method of operation, they said that there would be cooking during all hours of operation. The only food they saw were some sliced watermelons and I believe maybe some oranges on trays in the karaoke room. So that's why the counsel's office is charging them with extension of premise to the basement, disorderly premises for drugs. The police had submitted them for drug analysis. The suspected ketamine that was recovered. Non-bona fide for not serving food. Failure to comply under 202.68, as this premises is in the orange zone, just like Mr. Almarado's case. So they were not permitted to be serving inside. So 202.52 for the lack of food and 202.41 for the lack of social distancing. There was no social distancing going on according to the lieutenant. Many of the patrons were not wearing masks. So the owner was not present again. There was the owner's name is Yang Ji Lu. He was not present. He basically got wind of the fact when he paid the $25,000 that the judge said that he was not supervising this premise, and he has not gotten the message because he wasn't there again on October 10th. And there was another individual who claimed to be the manager, Shuri Zhang. And of course, Mr. Liu, the owner, told us he was going to be personally managing the premise in the method of operation. He said that, in connection with the prior prosecution, and he has not amended the method of operation. So counsel's office submits this place as a real threat to the public safety. So we're requesting that you summarily suspend this premise.
All right, with that, Commissioner Fan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Ford, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was having some problems hearing you. When did you say they were licensed?
Oh, I'm sorry. They were licensed in November of 2015. And the prior case that I mentioned covered a long period of time. There were transactions that happened from like April until September of 2018. So there was activity going on as far as the FLA knows as far back as 2018.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Chairman Bradley, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
All right, with that, I'll call for the vote of the members. First, Commissioner Fan.
Based on the evidence presented by Counsel Marsico, it's clear that this licensee has not learned from his prior lessons and it's continuing to pose an imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare by keeping his establishment open and operating in the method that he's been operating. He's violated multiple executive orders, and for that, I am voting to summarily suspend his license.
Commissioner Ford, your vote.
And also, based on evidence presented by counsel, I find this place to be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, so I vote to summarily suspend as well.
And Chairman Bradley, your vote.
Based on the presentation by counsel, I find that this licensee is a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, and I vote to summarily suspend.
All right, with that, Chairman, I have nothing else on the calendar. Do you have anything else?
I do not, so everybody have a good weekend.
All right, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
You can turn the end the call button there, Chairman.
Does it look like it's my first rodeo, dude?
Well, you're still on the screen.
I know, I'm finishing an email.